off we go. I think that means we're recording.
Yep.
Yep, we're recording. Okay, good. And hopefully you all now see the presentation.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Now we are ready to get started. All right, let me get back to the presentation. All right, today we do not have a presenter. We do have a quiz later on, if we get that far, which is something I saw in the New York Times, and I thought it would be fun. But we always start in the same place with introductions. Who are you and what do you drive? And I'll start with me. I'm Jerry Glazer, and I'm driving 2018 Nissan Leaf. Not all that much. And also, as people jumped on early, I drove around the block. Thank you, Caleb. With my E-Moto scooter company, which is out of business. And I couldn't get it to work. And Caleb and some other friends, John and a friend, Joshua, helped me figure out how to deal with the batteries, and I disassembled it and reassembled it. And I see Zeno has joined us today too. He has a scooter in his garage, and I'm now motivated to take his apart. So, all right, I have on the display in front of me, it looks like Alan is next.
Hey, Alan Soule, and I mainly drive a Tesla Model 3, but also have a Tesla Roadster, which I have to say I'm now seriously considering selling it because I drive it so little.
Ah.
You can send it up to Washington. I'll drive it for you.
Okay.
Still have your Model S?
No, I sold the S.
Oh, wow.
Bruce, you're up next.
Yeah, hi. On rare occasions, I drive a peculiar hybrid of a 1959 El Camino and Komatsu excavator, which has been converted to electric.
Huh.
It is a strange El Camino.
The flying car.
The flying car. And one of my college roommates had one. I expected that you were going to show us an electric El Camino, so I told him he wanted to tune in, but I don't think he wanted to see what you did to the El Camino.
It's considered a crime by many.
All right, Bernie, you're up.
Okay, I'm Bernie Dolan, and nothing's changed here. Still got my 2018 3 and solar on the roof, and house is all electric. It's been converted, and I still need a battery. Can't talk my wife to parting with the money.
And we saw there'll be some more articles today on how to use your vehicle again for the battery. And I actually wrote to Synergy Solar, who gave a presentation to us. They're installing on my house with a battery on the 12th.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted them to be able to let me wire up the car as well, but they said they don't like to do bleeding edge. I don't think it's bleeding edge anymore. So I think everybody needs to know how to do that stuff. Sonia, on my screen, you're next.
All right. My name is Sonia, and I have a 2019 Model 3, and my friend just ordered a Tesla, so I get my first referral, which gives us both 1,000 miles free. So, a couple trips to LA. And also, he's a pretty conventional guy, so I thought this is a good sign. I'm kind of curious how many people are getting, a little bit triggered by everything that's going on.
Yeah. Bruce Neiden.
Greetings. I'm sorry I missed the last 2 months. I'm excited to hear what's going on. I'm narrowing down the field. I'm using my 2019 Tesla Model 3 as my primary car. I have questions about makers of a lightweight Model 3 vehicle hitch and also a kayak roof rack, which I've seen photos of. So I think I sent in a note, and if there's time anybody has an experience, love to hear about that. I still have the RAV4 EV in my driveway and the Ford Ranger EV pickup in my garage, and my plan is still to turn the garage into remote 360 classroom where he can help out the local STEM facility by hopefully getting input from people like you via Zoom and kind of mixing it all together and kind of working through the steps of putting these other two vehicles back on the road. And then maybe if I still have energy, I'd switch to converting vehicle lectures or whatever. But I'm making progress, still a ways to go.
Bruce, I've got a kayak and a kayak carrier on my Model 3. So if you, I don't know if I could help in any way, but I have some experience at least.
I saw a roof rack. I forgot what was on it. It might have been a kayak, but it was 100% suction cup, no straps at all.
Oh, yeah, the sea suckers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. A lot of model or BMW i3 users will use those.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that,
All right, guys.
is that
wait. Remember, we got a bullshit time. We can get to the bullshit time.
Okay.
Al, you're up.
Okay, first question, Bruce. Bruce, what happened to the e-tron?
The e-tron just last week went over to a fellow named David Griffin, and he and his wife Kim have started an EV exclusive used car lot. He's had I don't know, decades of experience in used cars, and he's an avid sailor. So it's over there and it's on the market and in mint condition.
Thank you. Al McLaughlin here. I drive an I-Pace. I'd probably be driving an e-tron, except I talked to Bruce about his e-tron a while back. Last point would be I'm on my third juice box in 4 years. Each one replaced under warranty, although this one, they really just kind of gave it to me because you run on the initial warranty of 3 years. But they've been very nice. It's an upgraded juice box, the newest one, so we'll see. That's it.
All right. Mark, you're up on my screen.
Yeah, Mark, I drive a 2013 RAV4 EV and just turned on my, I put a new heat pump on the summer, and this morning I just turned it on for the first time.
I had mine on for the first time this summer as well.
Yeah, very nice. It's surprising how much heat that thing puts out. It was blowing out air that was 110 degrees, and it was 55 degrees at my house when I was doing that.
Yeah, we'll see something coming up too. Ray, there you are.
Did you say Ray?
I did say Ray.
Okay. I don't hear all that well these days. Ray Alden here. I'm on my fourth all-electric car over a period of 28 years, but I don't drive anything. My daughter takes me in my 1918 Model S when I have to go out. Enough?
That's more than enough. That's superlative. Lowell.
Lowell Anza. I drive a 2013 Nissan Leaf, and a 2014 Tesla Model S.
Caleb?
I have a 2015 BMW i3 and several parts of a 1974 Volkswagen Super Beetle that's all electric.
Are you going to put it back together?
I haven't decided yet.
I haven't decided yet. Okay, your baby. And how's the smoke?
It's quite bad.
Quite bad.
It looks like there's mist in the air.
Uh-huh.
It's actually obstructing my view of, less than 50 feet. It's like, can't see much. It's pretty bad. I think our air quality index right now is 350.
Whoa.
350. Geez, we were at 205 yesterday, but it's now about 160 or so.
Yeah. Day and a half ago, it was up near 500 or 600.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Isn't 600 the max?
Depends what kind of sensor you're looking at, but yeah, it's you could basically go out and shovel the air.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Caleb, where are you then? Where are you at?
I'm in Vancouver, Washington, just over the river from Portland.
Okay.
And for others who don't know, Bruce is up in Friday Harbor, is that right?
Reno.
No, the other Bruce.
Okay.
That's right. Since we started Zooming, some of you guys used to drive in to have the North Bay meetings, and now that we're Zooming, we are going to keep the Zoom going when we get in person again. We'll figure a way to have a hybrid meeting because it's really nice having all you guys show up. Dom, we haven't seen you forever.
Well, I will tell you, I moved to Dallas a year ago, and I've since moved back. But funny thing, I drive two 2014 Volts, one black, one brown. I brought my brown Volt with me to Dallas, and I was the only person that I ever saw that had a green California sticker on a Chevy Volt with a Texas toll tag.
Yeah.
And I found out that gun racks don't fit into a Chevy Volt, so go figure.
Yeah, well.
So you couldn't feel at home in Texas.
Well, it was right. No, I had it. So it was the funniest thing. The week before I left California, I went to a unmanned systems session down in San Francisco, and I had just shipped my Chevy Volt to Texas, and I brought my Chevy Avalanche, and so I took a picture of my Chevy Avalanche in San Francisco, surrounded by Model 3s, S's, Volts, and Leafs. And when I got to Texas a week later, I took a picture of my Chevy Volt surrounded by F-250s, F-350s, and Rams. So, all of your suspicions are correct. For every Prius, there's a 350 in Texas. So,
Zeno, you're up, and nice of you to join us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I am Zeno Slighting. I live here in Sebastopol. The air quality is 160 outside, and inside it's 59 because I'm running a air filter. I still drive a 2008 Honda Insight. So that's as close to electric car I ever got. But I have this Subpino that Gary mentioned that is kind of, some friend took it apart but didn't put it together again. And so I'm trying to still figure out what to do with that.
All right, David.
I drive a 1985 Avani. Used to be Studebaker. They are out of business. So is Avani, but my car is sitting in the shop right now with the windshield out, but I think I'm within about 2 weeks of getting the windshield back in. I got the metal work done, and I've been actually pulling it in and out of the shop and putting it over in the garage so I can do the work. So it's actually been moving back and forth without a dash. All the wires are hanging all over the place. I'm kind of interested to see if I could drive it without the windshield and any dash or anything. It seems like it just keeps running. So
just be a Jeep.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Tor.
Hey, yeah, we're still driving the 2017 Bolt. It's in overtime as far as turning it in. We're probably going to extend the lease another 2 months. And then I finally got to drive my daughter's. She bought a used 2013 Tesla Model S down to San Rafael to the Tech Repair Center, which was fascinating. And she's on camp. She's gone on a camping trip to Oregon, and really tricked out the camping mode in the Model S, which is interesting. But yeah, she's kind of stuck in Portland right now. And I've been playing with DIY indoor air filter with just a 20-inch box fan with a air filter taped on, and I have a data logger to show that it's actually works. So, but nice. If you can buy those now, that's a good recommendation for indoor air.
Cecilia, and we don't see your face, so you're not using your camera and you're on mute so far, but Ah, there you are.
I didn't want to disrupt the, the flow of people by turning on my camera in the middle of introductions. Anyway, I'm Cecilia, pronouns she, her. I drive a 2018 Model 3, but not very much these days because I'm staying inside. Current air quality is a only slightly unhealthy 117.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, that's better in most of the places.
Yeah.
And you got evacuated, huh?
I did get evacuated, but I'm back home again.
Okay, great. David Harris.
Yeah, I'm hiding out here at home. We have a 2017 Bolt, the standard orange color that they came in. My wife and I have been both working for the census as field follow-up workers, so we've been trading off on the Bolt, but I guess I'll make the observation that we have every reason to be suspicious of how the census is being run. They have, quote, an optimizer that plans your list of visits to make, and it is anything but optimized. They will send you out to Kenwood and then back into Santa Rosa and then back to Kenwood if you follow what they tell you you're supposed to do. So obviously we don't follow what they put the order of visits in. Actually, I've done most of my visits with my bicycle. Just take the ones in Santa Rosa and forget everything else. And speaking of Fords, my E350 V10 6.8 liter van has not moved in months. So, and I'm not in Texas, I'm here in Santa Rosa.
Right. Hey, Richard, I just saw you jumped in.
Yeah, hi.
Introduce yourself and what do you drive? And we see the ceiling.
So my wife and I each have Bolts right now. So that's what we're driving. Her lease is up in October. So she's taking the leap to a Tesla 3 at that point. So we're going to be a Tesla family as well as having the Bolt. Yeah, and I was interested in this because you have a lot of information today, and I have some questions too regarding battery backup and more solar panels, which I would like to put on a cantilevered carport over our driveway.
Oh yeah, when we get to the peanut gallery section, we can talk about that.
Cool.
And we may have some material covered on that too.
All right.
Did I miss anybody? Everybody moved around on my screen now. Did I miss anybody? Okay, on we go. Get into the right window. Chapter business. Basically, not much of this has changed. We have 154 names in this group. They get the messages about the meetings and anything else. We try to keep the email for NBEAA Club at a minimum amount. And as most of you know, we have NBEAA-discuss if you want to send messages out to members who want to hear more and talk about different topics. That would be one place, by the way, to talk about storage, because a number of us have explored storage. Alan has it installed. I think some of the others have it installed as well and have experience with it. Let's see what else is on there. Other than that, we still have the same membership belonging to the EAA, which is the national organization, and you actually pay for that one. For our other one, for the group, as you know, you just sign up. I just want to double check again. You should see a message like this one coming from, I think it's NBEAA 2019. And if you have ideas and articles that you've seen along the way during the month, respond back to this message, reply to it, and it gets sorted so that we can put the program together. Please help me out a bit. Let us know why you're sending the link. What was it about the article you saw, or if you have highlights in the article that you want covered in the slide, put that in the response as well. That makes it really easy to put the deck together. And I'm on the wrong screen. There we go. Oops, there we go. Alan.
Okay, so full disclosure, I am on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Sonoma County Transit Association and Regional Climate Protection Association or Administration, whatever. And I'm not pushing this one way or the other, but I've heard a lot of false information given about this upcoming tax measure DD. I just want to clarify it. These are the facts that Measure DD, Measure M, the quarter-cent sales tax, will expire in March of 2025. If Measure DD passes, that quarter-percent tax will continue, and so there's not an increase in tax. I just want to, some people are saying, oh, taxes are going to go up. Well, maybe on a relative basis, because if DD didn't pass, they would go down, but they aren't going to go up. So then the other point, Jerry, if you could switch slides, the other point that I want to make is a lot of people are saying, oh, well, the money just goes to Highway 101 and it's going to cause more congestion. Well, actually, no, look at Measure M. Yes, 40% of Measure M money did go to Highway 101 expansion, but if Measure DD passes, no money, zero money will go to Highway 101. It'll go to bike paths, and as you can see on this list, bus transit and so on. So I just wanted to point that out. Those are the facts. Let me make it clear that that's happening, and then you can make up your decision from there. I just wanted to make sure you all got the information the way it actually, the facts of the proposal.
Alan, do you happen to know if there's money? I see the zero of this going to SMART. Do you know if there is money going to SMART?
I actually don't believe so, not in DD. The county may have some, and probably does, I think. This is just a supposition on my part because I'm not sure. But I have to think that SMART is getting subsidized in some way. And maybe it's not county. Maybe it's state or federal. I'm not sure.
Okay. In our previous meeting, Sonia gave us a presentation and jumped in on her trip to Crater Lake. And
before we go, Jerry,
yeah.
Can we talk about DD? So, Alan, what happens? I mean, any tax in this particular environment is like, I don't know, passes. I mean, even talking about taxes right now seems like a tough stretch. So, what happens if DD fails in November? It seems like critical in legislation. Is there a reattack for 21?
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because the effect of DD will not take place until 2025.
Right.
So that quarter% will continue to 2025, even if DD does not pass. So okay. I have to think the economy, I hope the economy will rebound by 2025.
Right, but if DD fails this November, is there a plan to reattack next November or next April or sometime when everybody's not just flat on their?
From my understanding, there is none right now. Perhaps there may be, but okay. There is none right now.
Okay.
All right. If you want to see the previous meeting, here's the link to the previous meeting. We have a channel that's in YouTube. Which is the NBEAA channel. And we now have 4 presentations up there, 4 meetings so far. All right, here we come into the news. I'm sorry, events and offers. National Drive Electric Week is going to happen, but so far we're not participating. thing that we probably should talk about in meetings coming up is let's plan on an event for next year. Last minute, we started talking about could we do something, and even before that, we didn't have anything on the plate as a physical event, for people to show up. And I, for one, think that the club ought to be out there selling the idea of electric vehicles. And I found it really rewarding when Bernie and Sonia and Cecilia and I did an event last year. I think it was Earth Day that we did it. It was amazing the number of people who wanted to talk to us about EVs.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. I was hoarse by the end of the day.
Well,
Isn't that most days,
I
Jerry?
agree. I think they're effective when you do face-to-face. I do think it would have been minimally effective this year not doing it face-to-face.
Yeah, we'll see what it looks like. And that leads us right into this next slide. I'll post this up, and there are kits. Alan, you sent this. Why don't you discuss it?
Well, the main organizer for Drive Electric Week, we make it Drive Electric Day, but they're calling it Drive Electric Week, is a Plug-in America, and they provide a lot of resources that you can use for each chapter's Drive Electric Day or week, however they do it, each chapter's program. So it's not like you have to reinvent the wheel every year. And so if we want to do it next year, as I say, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of help from Plug-in America.
So I host the Drive Electric Week event here in Vancouver, and we actually canceled our event this year, but I've ordered their materials before, and I would, they're good materials, but when you request, I would say severely underestimate your attendance, because they send so much material that I ended up having to recycle and or throw away a ton of stuff from our event last year. Just because they just send stacks and stacks of their trifolds and one pagers and other like pens and things like that. So
what kind of turnout did you have?
I'd say we had anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 people come through.
Whoa.
Oh.
And you had excess materials from that many people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And when I requested it, knowing that they kind of send a lot, I only estimated that we were going to get around 500, but I still got like 3 or 4 huge boxes at my door, a few weeks before the event. So
wow.
Yeah.
And we started running out of stuff when we did Earth Day. I mean, because people showed up, and we didn't have 1,500 people, I don't think, but quite a few.
Yeah, the event up here, we do it alongside another Sierra sponsored event, which is a Peace and Justice Fair. So we do it in downtown Vancouver in this nice brick square. So it's usually a space for like our farmers market in downtown, and so the fairs and the other events bring a lot of people from the area. Plus, there's not a good one in Portland.
This one, DJ and I were talking about buying a new car for her to replace her Prius. It's something to plug in. And the cars that we wanted to get, we ended up not getting because the automakers wouldn't agree to conform with the California GHG requirements. But legally, Ford, Honda, BMW, Volkswagen, and Volvo just jumped in. Not only agreed, but signed a legal agreement that they will comply with California standards. And so beyond the federal standards. And the reason it's significant is that California is 12% of the population in the United States and a large percentage of the market for new vehicles. And what happens is that the other states now suddenly are getting the same vehicles. These manufacturers are not going to change what they're doing in the other states. And in fact, Ford said, our expectation is that we will meet this level in every state that we sell in. So the difference, by the way, is right now the standard is 38 miles per gallon. California standard by 2026, that's only 6 years from now, is 51, and the federal requirement's 40, which is a 2 mile gallon.
Jerry, aren't there about a dozen more states that have joined with us?
I think there are, yes.
There's 15 that are considering it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
By the way, I'll point out to those of you that haven't gone through this before, I always put the link down at the bottom for the article that we got the material from, or articles that I followed up on. Alan, you sent this one in. Do you want to speak to it, or you want me to speak?
I did, sure.
Yeah.
A study was done about how much money could be saved in the U.S. if a certain percentage of vehicles, fossil fuel vehicles, were changed to EVs, and it took into account the costs of climate change, which we're seeing firsthand right now, and the health costs, which the American Lung Association can talk to you about. And so they did actually two percentage conversions based on 2014 data, and on the more conservative one, they assumed that 25%, if 25% of the fossil fuel cars were replaced with EVs, that it would save 250 million tons of CO2, and the overall cost savings in the U.S. would be $17 billion.
Yeah.
That word present, it should be prevent.
I know. And you know, Ray, I sent this out to the presentation team, and Alan told me that, yeah, everything looked good. And I just wrote down that should say prevent. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know, I read that yesterday and again this morning, and I missed it both times.
Yeah, well, I saw it as soon as you started talking.
So anyway, it's just yet another study that shows that it would be an advantage for not only us individually, but also us as a country to convert to EVs.
Yeah, and Zeno and I have done quite a bit of studying on social cost of carbon and some other things. That's how we know each other. Obama era, as I think in another presentation, showed it was $45 per ton. During the Trump administration, I believe the number is something like $2, or maybe it's $7 per ton. So a different termination. Social cost of carbon, if you don't know, is what the government uses when it does a program or any project to evaluate what the cost of the project would be. And they have to now apply the social cost of carbon, but the number that you do per ton varies by administration.
Hello, everybody. I just showed up here, but I'd like to make a comment on social cost of carbon.
Okay.
At the AGU, American Geophysical Union Conference, where I go to listen to the scientists talk about climate change, the reports on social cost of carbon have been immensely larger than either of those numbers. Even at the last year of the Obama administration, it was in the hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And the scientists who do the most work on this put the social cost of carbon, it's well over $2,000 per ton.
Yeah. So this number is developed using 3 institutes. Actually, there's 3 institutes in the United States that do an extensive calculation. And this is the average of the 3. And one of them is down near $15. Another one's up closer to $100. And one of them was just about at this level. I went to Sacramento when CARB was evaluating social cost of carbon and how they would use it, et cetera. And the real cost, the social cost of carbon, it's a long discussion. Let's skip it. There's a lot more to it too, because there's a different number which is used that says, were we to charge this much for carbon, this would change behavior. And that number is about $200 a ton.
You know, there's also a big life, you know, a lot of people are dying from you know, bad air.
Yeah, that's what this study was about. Yeah, that's what this study is. This study is the first one that actually took that and used it as a part of the calculation. That's where they got the costs.
Is that the social cost? Is the life? A life?
Yeah, because social cost of carbon is supposed to talk about what it costs society in order to get and be whole again. It doesn't stop things from happening, but it just gets society back whole again. You know.
And the largest scientific estimates, I have the paper somewhere, but it's over $4,000 a ton.
Yeah.
When they consider climate change and so on.
See, but what we need here, this is my personal opinion, I'm going to say it right off the top. We need leadership that will try to convince the general public of this.
Yeah.
Without that, I'm very pessimistic.
Yeah.
Okay, Alan sent this one, but I'll talk to it for a second if it's okay, Alan.
Sure.
There was a takeaway from it. This is a website, and the link is down at the bottom. Because I went looking to upgrade my 2011 Leaf before I bought the 2018. And I couldn't find anybody in the area who really was serious about it, no matter what the price was. This site's actually now posting them. They only have 26 different sites that they found so far in the world that are doing Leaf upgrades. I thought that was really very interesting because it's something that they said we could do and there's a price on it, but if you try to find a dealer who does it, there's very few doing it. There were none in Northern California.
There's 2 in New Zealand. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's got me too. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting report, Alan, and I'm going to keep looking at that site because not just for Leaf. Leaf is important because it still is the single largest selling electric vehicle in the world. Now, not in the United States, but in the world.
So just keep this information in mind. It's going to tie in with a couple other slides that are coming up.
Yeah. Secondhand EV initiatives. I try to capture as much from that. Do you want to talk about it, Ellen?
Sure. So there's fortunately a concentrated push and a lot of incentives for people to buy a used EV. The California Climate Investments is $9,500. The utilities companies have anywhere from a $50 to $1,000 rebate. There's a organization called the Beneficial State Foundation that has up to a $5,000 grant. The problem with that, which would make it, you know, and there's an upcoming, you know, back to this battery changing thing. There's also a program that will reimburse money for replacing the battery. So you could get, you know, a very well-performing used EV at a very low cost.
Yeah.
The problem I see is the people who would be able to best take advantage of this have no idea what this is. And even if they heard about it, they wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Somehow that this information has to effectively be made available to the people who could take advantage of this.
Part of what I got out of the reading, Alan, when you sent this, I went to a couple other websites to pick up more material. It's different in every state. It's
Right.
different by county. It is complicated. But there is money available for used EVs. It'd be great to have a clearinghouse where somebody says, okay, I want to get an EV, help me out.
Exactly. That would be fabulous.
You sent this one in too, I think.
Okay. Oh, I did. And this was very interesting to me that assuming that the CEO of this company is giving accurate information, they can now recycle 95% of lithium ion batteries. And he claims that the end product from their process is equal to, or even maybe even a little bit better than the raw material that these that a new lithium battery manufacturer would receive from their suppliers from non recycled material. So it's very very encouraging for me. It sounded like a good deal.
What was interesting about it was that most of what he said in that article was that most of the recycled batteries actually get disassembled and they get repackaged and stuff like that. It's not getting back to the fundamental elements and material.
Right.
That was one thing. The second is the question was, how many EVs you're doing? He said, well, we can do EVs, but in reality, what we miss is that there's just this enormous volume of lithium ion batteries that are out there. And their problem was, how do you disassemble all of them? Their answer was, the first thing you do is you have to chew them up. That was, they actually have a patent for doing this, because once you chew them up, you can start fires. So they had to find a way to do this, and they do it, and they shred them in an oxygen-free environment and have made the machineries. They're about to sell the patent, the rights to the patent or whatever, license it, as well as equipment. So they'll be doing more than just doing batteries. They're going to do the process as well.
Where is this facility located?
Oh boy.
I think they started in Canada, and they're expanding throughout North America.
Okay, is that where it is? Thanks,
yeah.
But keep in mind for car batteries, the next step for recycling is repurpose, in my opinion. So there isn't, probably an immediate call for recycling the materials in those.
You gotta stop doing this, because we're going to cover that too.
Okay.
There's actually a webinar on Charged from this company, and they spoke specifically about that reuse versus recycling.
Yeah,
they had a pretty compelling argument for majority of the cases where the recycling would actually produce better end product.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I can understand that too.
At a overall more efficient energy use.
Yeah, so it was partially on energy, but partially on value. Mm-hmm. So the value of the raw material to go back into the manufacturing process was worth more than it would have been in a reuse at a lower energy or lower overall energy density.
There's another dimension to that too, which has to do with what the chemistry is and the life cycle for some of this. And we covered that when I did the battery presentation, I think back in December.
Well, to me, that's all good news. If a better process or situation can be figured out, then that's great.
Yeah. Toyota is, I don't know if I got this one or somebody else got this one, doing quick charging on solid state batteries, and Toyota had planned to roll this out as a demo at the Olympics this summer, but there was no Olympics this summer, so they'll do it next year. But they've been working on solid state batteries. That's kind of interesting, because Toyota has not been a battery electric company. They were believing in the hybrids and fuel cells. The reason for the solid state, which I covered in the battery presentation, was it has a better energy density. But I've also been and I don't know if any of the rest of you have gone to this, the Storage X sequence from Stanford. And that has focused a lot on solid state in the first presentations. And none of the people doing the research actually believe that they're as close as Toyota says they are. But anyway, they're working with Panasonic, and they have to create new kinds of factories to actually create these batteries. Right now, they can just do them as prototypes. Samsung's working on similar technology.
Isn't there a company that's doing a reverse IPO that's doing solid state batteries? I saw in the news a week or two ago.
Oh, which one is that?
It's a California company. I'll come up with it.
Okay. We could come back to solid state once again. I mean, I covered it a bit, and it was really interesting learning. If anybody else is interested in batteries, and Lowell, it's your fault that I got interested in it. This Storage X sequence that they have at Stanford, which is on a 1-month hiatus, is pretty exceptional. It's at 7 o'clock in the morning because they have presenters from all over the world that are talking about the research that they're doing in solid state, as well as other battery research. And the other thing is Toyota's rolled out 6 EVs, battery electric EVs, and pretty much they're targeting the Chinese marketplace. And John's not here today, but he sent a video, which I have a link to later in the presentation, and some more details, I think, in there. This one, and Alan, this is why I wanted to hold up for a second, because I try to put this in a sequence. Rivian, I keep looking for a job. And so LinkedIn sends me a message about 2 or 3 times a week saying, well, how about this? How about that? And one of them was entitled, Seeking Senior Manager for Stationary Storage Energy Management for Rivian. So they have a division. They haven't delivered the first vehicle, but they have a division which is going to take the battery packs that they have, and they're designing them so they can be used for stationary applications. Now that's both before they've been in the vehicle and after they've been in the vehicle. So the battery format is one where they can pull it out and they can put it into a stack and they use it for stationary. And they're building a microgrid in Puerto Rico to vet and prove the capabilities. And basically any of the installations use about 8 of the Rivian battery packs. They go into a shipping container. So it's not beautiful. Doron's not here. Somebody sent this in, so I wrote to Doron and asked him about this. He kept his food from spoiling, and he wrote a letter, wrote an article for the Climate Center in their newsletter, describing using his inverter and his leaf to save his freezer foods. It's a 1 kilowatt inverter. You snap it onto your 12-volt battery. You have to be careful to make sure you have your EV running, otherwise the 12-volt battery will run down. He said he ran for 5 hours, used only 10% of his leaf battery. His leaf, I believe, is the 2011, so it's the smaller battery pack. I checked into this unit. This thing sells for someplace between, I don't know why. On Amazon, it's $140, but if you buy it other places, it's $84 for the same unit. So a pretty cheap thing to get a kilowatt worth of power during an emergency.
Okay, Jerry, along those lines, I forgot to, I apologize, I forgot to send you this, but if you remember, we had a speaker, I think his name was Gu Bing from California Sunlight, that demonstrated portable battery storage that could be used to power a refrigerator. He sent me some info. That was a 1 kilowatt unit, I believe. They now make a 2 kilowatt unit that has actually a 1.8 kilowatt hour storage plus a 2,000 watt, 2 kilowatt output capacity. And I looked at my refrigerator and it's a 850 watt. So you know, actually either of those would do enough to simply run your refrigerator. And keeping in mind the refrigerator doesn't run 100% 24 hours a day. So anyway,
And
there's
this
stuff
unit has a 2 kilowatt peak on it.
Sorry?
This one has a 2 kilowatt peak on it.
Actually a 4 kilowatt peak, but a 2.
Oh, I'm saying this unit right here that's on the screen.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Okay.
So, I
Yeah,
mean, is it safe to run a kind of a flat out, what is that, 85 amps coming off of a lead acid battery? Sustained? I mean, that's a lot of juice running through a lead acid battery, isn't it?
Only if it's sustained by the onboard DC to DC. That's where your real issue is going to be. If your car's DC to DC can support it, then the battery's not taking the full load. But if your DC to DC doesn't support that, then you're going to be in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. I'll just add to this because we had Doron on a carbon conversation a month or so ago, and I got one of these. The difference in price between the two models, this one is a pure sine wave inverter. The others that you'll see are modified sine wave inverters that are under $100.
Yeah.
They don't work great on refrigeration. So stick to pure sine. So that's, you can get a couple of them under $200 for 1,000 watts. I tested this when we had power outage for the rolling blackouts of whenever that was. And I tried doing a freezer and a refrigerator, and it kind of tripped it off. So run one or the other.
Yeah.
But it works, and there's a few more models. This one's nice because it has a little LCD readout that tells you the voltage of the battery and the AC output. Not all of them do. It's a nice feature, just so you can monitor your car battery. But yeah, it works, and not a bad thing to have.
Yeah, and I thought the pure sine wave was probably the difference, but I didn't think the pure sine wave would make a difference in the compressor in a refrigerator. So you're saying it does, huh?
This is David Harris. It depends on your refrigerator, and the LGs have used motors that are inverter. They create the wave that drives the motor. So you can give it dirty electricity. You do not need a pure sine wave with LGs. And I have been unable to find which refrigerators manufacturers have, that their compressors will take dirty power. But, they're taking whatever you give it and rectifying it anyway. So, but then there's other manufacturers that do not use that technology in their compressors. And dirty electricity gives you a problem. Pure sine wave is a problem. So I find it critically important to know what kind of compressor motor you've got. And then, I ran our LG refrigerator off of the cheapest inverter hooked to our bolt, and it was no problem. So
that's good to know. I would also add that this Best Tech model here came with cables that had clips on them.
Yeah.
And most of them don't. Yeah. They make you go find some clips. So they assume you're going to hardwire the inverter into a standalone system. Yeah. So the process of finding some higher rated 100 amp, clips is not easy. You'd think it'd be easy.
Right.
And then these cables are a little thin, but that's where you get most amperage from the car battery to the inverter.
Well, I hope it's the number 2 cable, because otherwise, you're right, that would be quite thin.
Well, I just started cutting up my old jumper cables. You've got a heavy duty clamp on them.
Yeah, that's one way to go.
Yeah, and the other thing, I did contact Doron because I didn't understand why he said, "Oh, you need a high amp extension cord." It's only a kilowatt. You divide that by 110. That's 8-9 amps, and 16 gauge wire should be able to handle that. Okay, so a standard extension cord should be fine.
You might be able to take a smaller extension cord and coil it up and fry your eggs on it.
Good idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jerry, you can sort of have to qualify that with how far you're going to run the extension cord.
I actually looked at Alan, and it said 16 gauge, believe it or not, would make it 100 feet.
Okay.
So at 9 amps. So.
Did they assume you were living in, say, Alaska in the middle of the winter?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they certainly wouldn't have the 111 weather that we had here. We had the rolling blackouts. Alan, I know you sent this one, but I'll talk a little bit.
Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
88% of the consumption that we have during these blackouts is from air conditioning. And on this graph here, it's, I don't know if my mouse show up on this when I'm doing this?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So all of this area here is shiftable. So it says, here's that peak. There's our duck curve doing its thing. But here's our peak, and they don't know what this load is here. The rest of it's pretty stable. So if you could shave this somehow, that would work well. Well, the method that I use for shaving is this one. I asked my wife if she would send me the picture she took, because hers was better. I took mine earlier. It was 102 outside. It was 73 in the house, and we weren't running an air conditioner. Actually, the last picture DJ took showed 111 degrees outside, and it was 70, I have to admit, it was 75 degrees inside the house. That's all done with insulation. That's not done with air conditioning. So shifting the load, you could actually turn your air conditioner on here, drop the temperature into the building down to 67, and with a suitable air conditioning, suitable insulation, you make it through the entire day. Now, in our climate, in most cases, you don't even need the air conditioning. So, Andy, I've been using my heat pump. I will admit, I've used it twice now in 2 years.
I think that's just a fantastic testimony to how important the insulation is.
Yeah, yeah, and it's cheap.
Based on what you said, Jerry, I'm thinking about like redoing the south and east sides of my house with insulation.
Yeah. The house that I lived in down in Sunnyvale had 100 linear feet of floor to ceiling windows. And all I did was put 3 inches of insulation on the roof. And that changed everything. I also made a white roof, but here I did something which I've always wanted to do, and that the new building codes say you should be doing. I isolated the exterior envelope of the house from the structure of the house. And so there is no thermal, other than windows, thermal method of getting heat or cold from the outside to the inside.
So does that just effectively take out all your thermal bridges?
Yep, it eliminates all your thermal bridges. I used a product called InsoFast, and I resided the house. So I put InsoFast. My walls are now 8.5 inches thick on the outside of the house. So
what kind of studs do you have?
Huh?
What are your studs?
2x4s.
2x4s? Okay.
2x4s. I'll go through the, if people are interested, I may put a presentation together on what we did on this house, because DJ and I always wanted to build an energy efficient house, and we designed one, but in Sebastopol it would cost $1.6 million in construction costs for it. So we bought a used house, a 70-year-old house, and looked at how we would renovate that.
Well, I'm very interested.
I'd love to see that.
Designing a house that's off the grid, working with the passive energy consultant, and all those things you just mentioned are integral to the project.
Yeah.
But the one of the most important things are the window systems. Going to be doing some custom windows that will avoid all of the thermal bridging by isolating the inner components from the outer, in addition to triple glazing.
Bruce, you shouldn't need custom. A number of companies already do that.
Right, they do, but I've been going through. We also don't want to work with wood or clad windows on the project, because we don't want to build the house out of kindling.
Okay, and that is, in our house, the only wood on our house now that is exposed to the exterior is actually the window frames and actually the molding around the windows. The rest of it is hardy board, so basically concrete, and with a metal roof.
Jerry, it would be interesting to know though how much heat gets through, because as I remember, Insofast is polystyrene, and you know, that stuff. They say it doesn't burn, but it melts for sure. Yeah.
And from work that Caleb and I had done previously on vehicles, we were used to using the laser guns. And so I went out and bought myself a cheap one, and I go around testing the house.
I think you might find that polyisocyanurate is more effective than polystyrene.
Well, I can tell you, it works. And I also have to, I won't tell you the name of the company, but in Santa Rosa, when I did my Title 24, I gave them all of the numbers, and the fellow who was doing the calculation said, you know, if you put bat insulation between here and here, so I actually have 3 layers of insulation on the roof in many places. And I think the cost was like $300 for the additional materials. I mean, it was ridiculously cheap.
Yeah, it'd be great to get that presentation.
Okay. Woody asked me years ago to do something on that, and I've never done it, but I'll get there.
I just add that Title 24 today requires basically external insulation covering the studs. So if you build a new home today, you'd build essentially what Jerry is doing retrofit mode. So.
There's a builder on YouTube. His name is Matt Risinger.
Risinger. All right.
He talks about building the perfect wall, and using building science, and a lot of his techniques are similar. They're basically creating an entire envelope around the outside of the house and creating that insulation layer before you get to the studs. It's really, really in-depth videos that he has, and he's got some great resources on his website as well. And
I have the same thing on the roof, which with another product. So it motivated me to do it, and I'm sorry, what motivated me. I've read an article once about a new building built in Switzerland that was net zero. And I said, shit, if they can build a net zero building in Switzerland, then here in California, there's no excuse for not doing that.
Well, when you do put that together, Jerry, I'd be curious about, how the wall gets built to retrofit around the windows and how the shear wall works.
I can cover all of that, because the building around the windows is difficult. The shear walls, you all know that one of my careers was as an architect. So the shear wall portion of it, I used a structural engineer here in town. I just wanted to do a beam calculation I had already done, but the contractor wanted somebody else to stamp it. He ended up earthquaking my house at the same time. And there were no shear walls in this house to start with. And the entire house is sheared now.
Yeah, but you can just use strapping, X-braced strapping to take care of the shear walls.
I used 3/4 ply all the way around the house, and the cripple walls didn't have any structure on them. And I'll put a presentation together instead of us going sideways here. Alan, you want to pick up this one?
Okay, so here's some more incentives for EVs. The Southern California Edison was approved to have a huge expansion of EV charging. They're going to target mainly low income and trucking and that sort of thing, but it's a great program. And I looked and looked. I didn't see anything that specifically said this, but I have to assume this is going to come out of ratepayer money, and possibly some California money too. But the articles that I read did not explicitly say where the money's coming from. But back to this low income issue of getting EVs to low income folks, here's some more money here for charging. What this program, what SCE is going to do in this program is to provide and maintain the infrastructure, which is the most costly, as we've talked about. If you live in an apartment building, to get to run power to a charger's usually a lot more expensive than the charger itself. Well, these other programs will provide money for the charger. So essentially, you can get free charging installation. I assume you have to pay for the electricity, but as we all know, that's much less expensive than gasoline. So it's just another program that would make it a real advantage for low-income folks to have an EV.
I dug a little bit deeper into this also, and so this is an extension of an existing program, and the other program is called Charge Ready Transport, which is actually separate, and that's been in progress, and it targets larger trucks and charging for them. Alan, I think this is the same way as a gas station. I mean, if you said the ratepayers are paying for this, yeah, a gas station, when you buy the gasoline, you're paying for the construction of the gas station.
Right.
I think that's exactly what they're doing here.
I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying I think that's where the money must be coming from.
Right. I mean, they're taking money which they've made already to make a capital investment for a new business opportunity.
Essentially, right. Yeah.
Speaking from the medium and heavy duty truck space, the Charge Ready program for fleets that are looking to install infrastructure is not as good as it seems, because there's a lot of other back end costs that are associated that some of this Charge Ready doesn't cover. And had they restructured it to support, like buffered charging, like battery storage on site and things like that, the cost for the infrastructure of these fleets would be substantially lower. And so there's a lot of money that's sitting there not being used as a result.
That takes us into the next slide. I try to organize, after I finish taking all the articles you guys send me, I put the whole thing together and I put it on the screen, and then I move them around saying, well, is this kind of like that? So that's why some of these look like they make some sense. This one was basically the utilities, and Caleb and I are, again, familiar with this, because when we were helping fleets get started, often the thing that stops somebody from buying the electric trucks for their fleet is $250,000, or even in the case of the city of Los Angeles, is refuse trucks. How much will it cost us to get electricity to the yard to charge up the trucks? Yeah. Because you really do dump in. And here, I looked up some of the numbers for this one. I think, Alan, you might have sent this one in, but I dug in deeper. If you looked at it, a Tesla Model 3, pulls in 54 to 75 kilowatt hours. A Proterra transit bus is 220 to 660. So we get a fleet out there. They're pulling in power, and they want to charge in about the same amount of time as the Tesla wants to charge when it comes home. The example here was in Amsterdam for their 100 bus transit fleet. It has a peak load of 13 megawatts. That's the same as 1,700 EV chargers at home. Amazon is putting in 200 delivery vans in their Arizona fulfillment site. That's 4 megawatts during the peak. And the I-5 corridor, if you add up all of the stations, 23.5 megawatts. So I went ahead to Cal ISO and said, okay, for the day that I'm putting this slide together, what's the forecast peak for the state of California? And it's 35,000 megawatts. You start adding a bunch of these at 13, 4, 23, 35,000 gets there pretty fast. So the utilities have got to figure out how to start delivering this. It's going to be a challenge.
But this isn't new news for them.
No, it's not new news.
They haven't been working on it. Shame on them.
Yeah, no, they've been working on it. It's interesting, and I think I have more on this too. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it yet. But vehicle to grid becomes something to talk about, because I attended a conference and asked the question, because at the time Motive was working on vehicle to grid, and I didn't think it was important in our systems. And I asked the VP at Southern California Edison and PG&E, so what about vehicle to grid? And they said, we're not even thinking about it until, and this was 5 years ago, 2020. we have too many other things that are on our plate. At this point, they're thinking about it because vehicle to grid is going to be where they're going to get some of this power from.
Well, I know Cal ISO was thinking about it 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I know they were.
Well, I guess just putting that in context, though, that of the 113 day we had 2 days before this data was pulled. I mean, we were biting our fingernails on rolling blackouts. So this needs to be on top of sufficient grid support for sustained climate change numbers as well, right? So is there any plan to deal with all that? I mean, that's the part that needs.
I can't remember if there's something in here in the deck. There might be something later in the deck on this. If not, if you just stop and think about with the mandates that we have in California to convert from fossil fuel to electric, take the energy that at 30 times, capacity for gasoline,
right.
The energy that we now have to replace, that's a lot of energy.
A lot of energy, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this one was a curious one for me. I just threw it in. A friend of mine's daughter bought a place in a little house in Alameda, 5,000 square feet, that she's moving into. So we decided to start driving around the island. And back in 1975, I landed a Cessna 152 on the runway at Alameda Air Station and almost crashed the plane because, they put those lines across for the tail hooks on the plane so you can stop really fast. And I didn't know that in a 152. Luckily, I had a captain sitting next to me saying, no, 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 and he pulled it up. So we didn't trash the plane we had rented. So on the old runway, Envision Solar looks like they partnered with ChargePoint. They have 5 or 6 charge stations out on the runway. They're not wired to the grid. They're just using solar panels. I looked up a little bit more after I found this, and they improve their gain because they're using moving panels, but they get about 150 miles worth of range per day, I think, in their collection. It's one of the things about solar. You can't get that much. And they dump it into the battery so you can go in and go charge up your vehicle. But this also is showing up, I think, on Highway 101 in the longer stretches between King City and San Luis Obispo. Some of these stations are starting to show up. So I don't know how many vehicles they can service. And it fits in a standard parking space. Also back, well, I don't know, there was a session down in Palo Alto and they had an EV event and these guys were there showing this probably 6 years ago. And I'm going, is this really practical? But now they're rolling them out. I can't remember who sent this one, but we talked about this before.
I did. This is a newer model from Clipper Creek that will provide 9.6 kilowatts charging power to a single car or automatically divvy that up to a second car. So it seems to me that's a pretty nice situation for somebody that's going to have a second EV in their garage.
Yeah, and they said in the articles that I read that followed up on this, that we had covered a couple of months ago, the 32 amp model. And this is a 50 amp circuit. The other one was for a 40 amp circuit. They assumed 40 amp circuits. Everybody came back and said, geez, it would be nice if it was 50. So they made this model available. The other thing I found was that you can trade up if you have any of the single station models, and they'll give you a discount on the single station. I couldn't figure out what that was. Single station models to trade up to this one. I think the single station models are more like $300 or $400 at this point, so I'm not sure how much money they give to you on it. This retails for $14.79.
Yeah, there you have it here. It has two 25-foot cables, so it's a pretty good setup.
But the other way to do this, and this came out of the South Bay, Mountain View Carbon Clean or Carbon had this little device, and I couldn't figure out what it was at first when I dug further into it. It's a 240 plug, and this one does not balance. And I had to read far enough to finally figure out how it worked. So if you've got a 2018 Leaf, it has a 220 portable charger in the back. And if you had this thing, you could plug this in at your friend's house, or if you have your dryer in the garage, you can plug it in and then plug your 220 into this and charge up your vehicle with it. What it does is, I believe it has a primary and a secondary. So if the primary wants to draw power, it lets it draw the power. And then when the primary is done drawing power, it flips over to the secondary, and then we'll charge up the secondary. How's this work? Well, if you have two cars in the garage and you just have a plug, you can plug them both in. You don't have to run out and switch from one to the other. If the dryer turns off, it'll start charging the car next. So, and now I'm seeing discussion down there. People want to know, can I plug in my dryer and my air conditioner? So, and there's the stats on it. I thought it was a neat device. Do I have the cost on it? Yeah, there it is. It's $420 to $479. Not cheap, but. Sonia, you sent this one in.
Yeah, I've been kind of looking at the Lucid Air, and you know, certainly they need to do a few things to stand out, and you know, they've gone for pretty high range, and you know, other than that, I think we all need to kind of see it to believe it. So we'll see if one shows up in Sebastopol soon. Yeah. But you know, it's been interesting kind of reading a little bit about, you know, NBEAA hitting the public market, and then Lucid, and you know, it was hard enough for Tesla to get itself established over the past few years, and it's going to be that same level of kind of birthing, it seems like, to get Lucid Air and NBEAA in. I'd be curious if other people feel like they've already kind of hit their stride in some way. It seems very early days.
I think there's two things that were happening here, because I think it won't be so difficult for them, mainly because what Tesla had to do was determine how to make a pizza. Mm-hmm. Basically, they determined there's a market for pizzas. They developed a market for pizzas. Okay, mm-hmm. Well, the guys are coming in later. There's now a market for pizzas. Now they want to extend the market for pizzas, which is a different activity and not quite as complicated, I think. One of the things I got out of this from the article you sent was they achieved this by having the lowest aerodynamic coefficient. And they did something which the founder of Motive had always maintained, but they've now backed away from. They went to a higher voltage. And the reason for the higher voltage, now you drop the current on all of the circuitry, that's part of it, but the efficiency increases in the vehicle, in the motor. And so they had to develop their own battery packs and their own motor and everything else in order to support this. And I assume someplace in there, they've got a DC to DC converter. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to charge DC at any of the standard DC stations, because their voltage is going to be higher than the voltage being offered by the station. So nothing will pump in.
Yeah. You know, one other thing to mention is that, you know, it seems like they all need to create a model for stationary storage along with a car company, because you just don't get the valuation unless you do all the different kinds of, you know, extended business models. So
let me go further, because I might have something on that. Anyway, this is the model which they're going to have to start with, and they're introducing with. And they had an announcement on the 9th. I saw they were going to have an announcement on the 9th. And then I figured, okay, wait, this is the 9th. So then I went out and looked for the announcement. Their level 2 charging for the standard vehicle is 19.2 kilowatt. And sorry, for their introduction is 19.2 kilowatt at level 2. So they can charge up 80 miles per hour. and their DC is 300 kilowatt, so 20 miles per minute, and it's bidirectional. Now, the other thing which is interesting, in fact, I should go back to the previous slide. Do I have it there? I don't. When, maybe don't have it here either. When they come out with a production version, that 19.2 drops by 50%, and the 100 kilowatt drops to 100, 300 kilowatt drops to 100 kilowatt. So these are options, but in the first model, they're going to have the high-end model. They support vehicle to grid in the DC. Now, what's interesting is they support vehicle to grid in the AC as well. Now, any of you who deal with the electrical portion of this will recognize what a challenge that is. That says that they have to have something on board to recognize how to get the AC back into the grid. And that's a complicated chargers. They've done quite a bit. They're using CCS connectors. And they're advertising that they're going to have home charging stations and AC charging bidirectional, and that's what this guy is right here. So their solution is not, and they're going to offer an energy storage system as well. So that's all part of what you were bringing up. This article covers that part. So they've done the full profile as well.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like they figured out how to follow the model, but now that you have choice and you know that one company's kind of worked out a few of the kinks, you're going to have to think about, do I want to spend that $80,000?
Yeah.
And am I an early adopter?
Yeah.
So that'll be the interesting part. But we obviously need a few car companies.
Yeah.
So, hopefully enough people would be interested in order to work that all through.
Well, wasn't the other piece of this was it was a salon car or something? So the interior layout on the Air is quite different. It's like a super stretch limo on the back seat, if I remember.
Yeah, if you look back at this, what they have is they have multiple models. This is the one they're coming out with to start with. Okay, the other ones, here we go.
That's not what
$109,000.
Jerry, they were starting out with the expensive one first, and you weren't going to be able to buy the $80,000 one for a year or two.
Yeah, no, I thought that they were talking about, well, it says production announcement, and the one I saw said $78,000. I thought they were going to have a less expensive model later on that would be available.
This is Al. I agree with Bernie. I saw the announcement.
Okay.
You can pick it up on Tesla News or Tesla Today, one of the two. The whole thing's there.
Okay.
The whole hour's there.
It's out of my price range.
I was just gonna mention that looking at that table, I see for the lower cost one, it's 2022, and all the other ones are 2021.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you.
Well, pretty soon Tesla's going to be so 2020. All the rich people are going to move away from it.
Yeah. Volkswagen has just rolled out their first edition of the ID3. There's a YouTube here also later on. I have the same link of review. John Pomerly sent this one in. This is comparable to the Golf, but what they did was it's a brand new chassis. It's a ground up design. It's a 5-door hatchback. It's kind of strange on the inside because aerodynamics was a major part for this. It has a heads-up display on the windshield, as well as a display on the steering column, which I love because every time I move my steering column, I can't see what speed I'm going because it's always blocked on the stationary one. Theirs is sitting right behind the wheel, or behind the steering wheel. It's a 201 horsepower motor. It's in the rear. And the reviewer said it reminds him of how the Bug worked. So it's rear-wheel drive. It's not a Tesla. 0 to 60, 7.3 seconds. There's no on button. You walk in with a key. The vehicle turns on. It is on all the time, as everybody knows. And EVs are essentially on all the time anyway. The on button doesn't really turn things on. It just says I can drive. Has adjustable braking, much like other vehicles as far as how much regen you have. The first edition is being offered, which is the 50 kilowatt, which is the middle range, 268 miles. And it has an 11 kilowatt AC charging and 100 kilowatt DC charging. They already have 30,000 orders. They've already built, but not delivered any, 20,000 vehicles. And they'll have 3 different models of this one.
Gary, is this going to be available in the U.S.?
My understanding was that they wanted to be, but they already have enough orders in Europe, so they weren't going to send it, right?
Oh,
My
yeah.
understanding
There'll be a lot of orders.
There'll be no first editions released in the U.S.
My understanding was that they weren't going to do the ID3 in North America, but they would do the ID4 because, you know, everyone wants their big SUV.
Yeah, I think you're right, Cecilia. That's what I've heard as well.
And I'm sorry, I misspoke when I was talking about the previous vehicle. This is the one where the charging actually drops. So I guess the air is going to stay at 300 kilowatts. This one will go down to the standard model, which will be less expensive, is 50 kilowatt DC charging instead of the 100 kilowatt DC charging and 7.2 kilowatt AC. So we'll see what the prices look like on these things. I thought I had the price because I looked up the price on it. And I think it was $35,000 is what they expected the US price would be.
But that's a pretty efficient car. I've never achieved I've never gotten 4.62 miles per kilowatt hour in the Bolt. I mean, even on a 72-degree day, I usually get 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour. So pretty efficient car. So somebody else must be driving it in my left foot.
Well, if I'm careful and I'm driving around town and keep driving and stop and go and stop and go, my Leaf does pretty consistently about 4.5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the Model 3 is close to that too.
Okay.
California just kicked in $27 million for zero emission trucks. But you have to scrap the truck. And this is for Class 8 and port drayage trucks. And it's like the buses and others that are part of, I just forgot the name of the program. It's $200,000 though. This is one is administered through the South Coast Air Quality Management District, but as far as I know, it covers all of California.
This is another one of those that's probably going to have some money left over in the program, because the smaller fleets that have basically scraped along having to run trucks that are that old can't afford the infrastructure to move to a zero emission or low emission truck that would qualify. And the bigger fleets who can afford the trucks and the infrastructure already run trucks that are far newer than that.
Oh, good point. Yeah. This one I picked up because it showed up in the AOPA pilot. Just to mention this one. Kids, high school students in the South Bay have created a club, and if there's other people down in the South Bay, they had 12 members when I looked at it last, where they're building an electric airplane. Now, the reason I included this one, it was an interesting thing to think about. The reason they selected an electric airplane instead of a fueled airplane was with a fueled airplane, you constantly have to figure out where the center of gravity is as you fly longer, because you consume the fuel. With an electric airplane, the center of gravity stays in the same place. And so they only have to do the engineering calculations in one configuration. That was the reason for going electric.
Gas airplanes, the fuel's also right on the center of lift. I mean, they put it right on the wing. The wing is the...
They try to, Bernie, but you know, when it drains in the 170, that wing tilts down a little bit, so I get a little more fuel on the back, and
well, I've seen it where you get more on the left or the right, but
yeah, I think that too. I draw from both tanks. Sonia, you sent this one in.
Yeah, so boy, you know, a couple of weeks can really change things. I was looking at clean air a few weeks ago, and just the effect of COVID, and I thought this was a pretty cool visual. And Jerry's got it working where you can kind of see it changing back and forth. Clearly doesn't pertain to what we're experiencing this week.
Yeah.
At all. So yeah, I didn't know a lot about how NO2 works and how it remains in the environment. So, you know, usually that's a very seasonal kind of factor. But with the CO2, you can kind of see as we kind of open back up and then lock back down and open up and lock down a little bit, we're affecting it that way. Yeah, so the takeaway now is, you know, I feel like, you know, why layer onto all the wildfire smoke that we currently have with, you know, a lot of CO2 by hopping in cars. And I just saw an article this morning that said an airline was going to offer flights to nowhere for people who are bored. And
oh shit!
Oh, it's true. Yeah, that's true. I've seen it. Yeah.
Yep. So you know, we're clearly, you know, we're dealing with people who can't help themselves, but at the same time, you know, you hope to see that, you know, a couple of these factors would take us in the right direction.
Yeah. Also, I remember back in the 1970s, we should know all of this already anyway. We changed our emission standards for vehicles. And back in the 70s, I came back from college from Pittsburgh and drove up Skyline Boulevard and looked down at the valley, but you couldn't see the valley. 10 years later, because we changed the standards, now you can see the valley. We know even then when the population was so much smaller, there's maybe 3 million people in the Bay Area at the time, not the 7 or 8 million we have now, that our vehicles make a difference.
Oh, yeah.
All right, input from the peanut gallery. You guys started a couple of discussions earlier. Do you want to continue with those?
I have a question. It was about the juice box. Do people that have the juice box, obviously, do they have trouble with it disconnecting from the internet on a very quick, whatever, a lot of the time? Mine just, it seems I connect it and a day later it's disconnected.
Alan, I've had no trouble at all. I have 2 juice boxes and they both work fine consistently.
Same here. I have no problem at all. It seems to be very reliable.
Interesting. It must be my internet, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it could be your juice box. This is Al. I've had 3, as I mentioned earlier, and they've all never had a problem. I've got a problem with my iPace at times, but none with my electric heat pump water heater. How are you doing with your heat pump water heater, Al? Is it working? Or Alan?
Oh, yeah. I haven't had a single problem with that. It's been
so no Wi-Fi problem with it?
No. And they're in the same garage, too.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. You might call Juice Box and see if they'll do something. They've been pretty good about it. I was going to switch to Clipper Creek if they didn't do something, but I didn't tell them that. So.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I wanted to go back to something Bernie started with on the battery thing. Bernie, have you had any luck with SGIP or anything like that in your battery backup?
It wasn't me. I don't know.
No, you mentioned the battery backup earlier. You were thinking about getting it. Let me, and I'll talk about SGIP just for 1 sec. Because after Synergy had presented to us, I decided to finally pull the trigger and put solar on the roof and put in battery backup. And it just finished building a shed. I had to get a building permit for it because they wouldn't let me put the battery underneath the house. So I'll have a 12.2 kilowatt hour battery that'll push around 10 kilowatts on peak. So that one turns out to be lithium iron phosphate. And the significance of that,
What company?
Synergy Solar. Now, and in fact, the lithium iron phosphate are Sonnen batteries that are getting. The Synergy is a small company. I didn't realize how small because they're turning business away. I've sent people to them and they won't even talk to them. Yeah. But I talked to them last year and they said, okay, why don't you talk to us next year? So, I had talked to them a year in advance in order for them to talk about putting batteries on my house. What I've learned, last month, I put the link in for the talk at Sonoma Clean Power Caldwell gives on the research on stationary batteries and battery technology. And if you're interested in it, you should click that link. I saw also recently that they've advertised they're going to give that class again from Sonoma Clean Power. And that covers battery technology pretty well. And he explains in there why one would not get a battery out of most of the vehicles, certainly not the Tesla batteries. Because the half-life on the batteries is really short when you use it for a stationary application, which has a different recycle profile, whereas the lithium iron phosphate has about a 15-year life. The Teslas, they're looking at 5 to 6 years, and then they need to be replaced. Anyway, so I can't seem to get them to talk about doing this with our cars as well, because what you want to do with the battery is you want to take care of two things: the short outage and arbitrage. And long term, shit, we all bought cars. We got 40 kilowatts, got 50 kilowatts, you got 70 kilowatts. The 12.5 kilowatt battery is probably coming in just under $30,000 for the battery. Well, $30,000 car has got 3 times the energy capacity. So if we were down for a long time for because of a power outage, I'd want to rely on my car, not on my stationary battery. And Bernie, you've got more than enough cars to do that with. So,
Jerry, but I think the question was about SGIP, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, let me go a little further on. Sorry, that turned out to be not very much money. It was well under $2,000. It turns out the paperwork is complicated, and finally I talked Synergy into finding somebody who would do the paperwork. They didn't want to do it to start with. If you have, and I think it is 3 of the planned outages, if you experience 3 PG&E planned outages, you qualify for the larger amount. If you only experienced the one last year, you qualify for the smaller amount. And the difference is $10,000 versus something like $1,700 for the size that I was going for.
That was my understanding too. And in this rural Sebastopol area, we actually only experienced one really long power outage or whatever. And so I guess maybe in Santa Rosa, there were 2 to 3 and you'd qualify for that larger amount.
Yeah, it has to be planned outage. If the power goes out 15 times this year at your site, but it wasn't planned, that doesn't count.
Yeah, I would also add that if you're in the high risk zones, there's a map that the wildlife interface, whatever it's called, then you qualify as well. So Sebastopol's not in that zone.
Mm-hmm. What is actually better is there was a $12,000 federal tax credit for the size unit that I'm putting in. I'm not like Bernie. I'm not putting in, I'm not covering the neighborhood. I'm only putting up 16 panels. So
that particular credit, Jerry, is that just kind of like your initial solar credit?
Yeah, I think it's a solar, and I think there's a battery credit too. I don't know exactly how it works yet. I'll look at it again. I haven't written the check yet.
For me, it was just the battery.
Just the batteries. Okay. Yeah.
But
What was it? The federal credit was just the batteries? Tax credit?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about SGIP.
Yeah, SGIP is just the batteries. The 12,000, I think maybe the
Oh
commodity.
no, yeah, you get for solar, you get federal as well.
Yeah.
If you put the solar and the battery in at the same time, you get the federal tax credit. The battery's got to go in at the same time as the solar, then you can get the whole number times the 28 or whatever percent it is this year.
That makes sense.
And if you look at it, it really is, you know, the batteries in our cars for an extended outage, you know, I'm really getting prejudiced that.
Well, you got the problem of the car manufacturer warranting the battery for a certain number of years or miles, and he'd have to be able to keep track of
good point.
that usage.
Yeah.
Right. I mean.
Yeah.
I'll share the company, Canadian company Osiaco, that was coming with the V2G hardware.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be here right around now, and their focus was in North America was to be the Bay Area. But I think they paused because Nissan announced their next electric to use CCS protocol instead of the CHAdeMO, which they were banking on. Their whole first edition of their product, V2G product, was CHAdeMO based, and because that's already bidirectional. And I guess whatever ISO group that regulates standards is fiddling around with updating the CCS standard, which would be a great place to put some pressure to update that so that anybody else with CCS type cars can use that, because they're just waiting on that organization to update the protocols to
I
allow for
thought they had
bidirectional.
finished it last year, at the end of last year. Anybody else know?
Wait, what was the question?
No, I thought that the CCS standard was finally finished for a vehicle to grid last year.
No, not CCS. No.
Okay.
It's still in whatever process.
That's SAE is that, isn't it?
Yeah, SAE. I don't know. You'd have to dig deeper. I'm not sure exactly who it is, but it would be lovely to put some pressure on that, because then that would allow the company to. I mean, they basically said they were going to release the first edition, CHAdeMO edition, and then when CCS got approved, they could do a software upgrade or change the plug or something.
Yeah.
But so that's one company. The other Spanish company, Wallbox, was, I guess, coming, but same thing with the protocols, kind of holding it up.
Say, before we get to the end of the meeting, I have a question I'd like to kind of raise. My son is currently shopping for solar, and as Jerry pointed out, I just tried to send him to Synergy, and they couldn't do anything. And basically, he's come down to about 4 different vendors. There's you can get Costco as Sunrun. There's a place called Stellar Energy in Petaluma. Of course, SunPower, and then the other one was Tesla. And of the 4, Tesla was able to sell him, is offering to sell him 12K of solar panels for approximately $18,000 after incentives. Everybody else was like 22, 25, $27,000, like very, very, very far off. Actually, Tesla is willing to sell you a combination of Powerwall and solar. What distinguishes them is that they only sell you in specific increments. You can get 4, 8, 12, or 16 kilowatts based on what your needs are. He needs about 9.5. But nevertheless, the question is, what's the catch? How is Tesla able to undercut the local sellers by that much?
They've become, this is Al, very, very aggressive. They're going to be the low price vendor. They've become very responsive. My next door neighbor just had him out to do his whole thing, battery and roof. They're trying to grab the market right now. They've got this preset permit process with a lot of the cities, so they can go in and not have to do a lot of paperwork. It's all been prearranged, so they've got their own crews, obviously. So
oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. They come in and do the whole thing in one day. That's the.
So, but they've got a quality product. There's nothing to distinguish their solar cells from. Well, let's say, well, I guess Sunrun is. SunPower is kind of the leader in terms of efficiency, but
yeah.
And I don't know if they have the same. I guess one of the things they will not sell you microinverters like Enphase if you don't need them. Like his house is completely open to the sky, so they're going to give him a string inverter. I guess if you
they'll negotiate on what kind of string inverter. I did that with them, but they don't do micro. You're right, and the battery's different, as Jerry pointed out. They just do the normal car lithium-ion battery, which I got, and that's a Powerwall, but it's good.
Well, they do Powerwalls. Yeah, they'll sell you 1, 2, 3, whatever number of Powerwalls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're talking about collectors, Lowell, most of the people are importing their collectors from outside, and they have to pay that 25% tariff. Tesla builds theirs right here in the U.S., so they save that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they must have something going. I'm just, wondering. He wants to know whether he asked me to ask you all whether there's some catch, that there's some reason he shouldn't do this. There's some significant difference in quality between these options that would drive him to be skeptical of what Tesla's offering. But you're saying not,
This is Al. I don't believe it's any difference. In my case, they match the low bid. Nowadays, they are the low bid. That's what the 1 year difference is. They will negotiate with you on how you place the panels on your roof, how much pipe they'll show going across your roof or through your attic, and that's it. I mean, they will do some negotiating.
Yeah, and they seem to be able to do it quickly. I mean, he wants to get it done before the end of the year, and they're able to do that. So, yeah.
I was interested, and I had a conversation with them for our project, and unfortunately, they aren't set up well for a ground-up new construction. Their business model is clearly caters to working with existing houses, so that's a little frustrating for me.
Right. I mean, they do have the solar tiles, and that would be for new construction, right? I mean, the solar,
Yeah.
Jerry, what's the situation with a Powerwall if the batteries aren't going to last that long for retrofitting? Do you think Tesla's going to come out with some new battery technology, or what's the situation?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, I seriously doubt that 5-year figure. It's going to be more than that. And the batteries are different than the car chemistry.
Yeah, but the analysis, watch the video or take the class.
Okay.
This is an independent research.
I just have to say, based on my car's experience, I had that Model S for 6 years, and it had no noticeable degradation in the battery.
Okay.
So, and the batteries in the Powerwall are different chemistry than the batteries in the car.
Okay.
The warranty on the battery is 10 years and so many cycles. You can figure out the cycles cover the 10 years, and they're not full cycles. You're just going up and down depending on how much arbitrage you do, partially. So
yeah, Al, but the presentation, and like I said, watch it. It may have changed. They may have new research.
Well, I
did this last year, and his point was, yes, they have the warranty. They don't make it through the warranty.
So he's had experience that several Powerwalls have not made it through the warranty.
Right. They had a lot of data, and most of the data came from Australia because the amount of install base in Australia was so large.
Okay. Those are probably Powerwall 1s, whatever that means, not Powerwall 2s, but yeah.
All right. Anything else for the peanut gallery? Otherwise,
yeah, just to follow up on that, as I recall, there's a big Southern California power company that just installed a bunch of power walls for their backup storage for when it's needed. So if there's a problem with the degradation of the batteries, wouldn't they be concerned about that as well, since they're spending millions of dollars for these huge battery?
Well, it could be a cost benefit thing.
Really?
Well, I'm just thinking about the batteries put in the scooter, okay? The battery put in the scooter was basically $45 a battery. So it's only gonna last 5 years. But I could get the 10-year battery and that's $114. Okay, if I'm in the business of working with scooters, I buy the $40 one and I put in 2 of them for the 10 years. And that may be the way that the utility will look at it.
Okay.
Hey, one last thing, I'll be quiet. I think you want to question whether you ever need more than one power wall in your son's house. I know, Alan, you got 2, but you got a deal. I got neighbors that have 4, and you know they're swimming. They can't do anything with it. The arbitrage is not that big. So, you know, I made it through several days with one power wall backing up my house of outage. You got your solar panels kicking in. So I think more than one's a waste of money.
Yeah,
Tesla told me they will not sell 1 anymore. They only will sell minimum 2.
Oh, really? I mean, when you go to the website, it lets you select 1. You know, when you're configuring your system, you can select 1 if you want to. It doesn't say no. You know, it doesn't stop you. And
okay, well, my information is from 18 months ago, and they said they would not sell 1 any longer.
No, interesting. Well, he may opt for none because of the things we've been talking about. We don't get that many power outages, and he doesn't have that many power outages. And in fact, you know, the real value of the power wall in the current environment is for, you know, emergency electricity.
Did you say he was going to do a 12 kilowatt system?
Well, he's a choice between an 8 and a 12. They don't, again, if he would do about a 9.5 kilowatt system if he was going to just configure it precisely to his needs. But if he's going to go with Tesla, it's either 8 or 12. So he'd probably go 12.
I thought Tesla was 13.4 per power wall.
No, he's talking about
I'm talking about the solar. I'm talking about the solar, the incremental solar. Right. Yeah.
So I only have about a 6.5 kilowatt system. I definitely need 2 power walls to arbitrage that.
And you would need it for a well, right? Because
right,
you know,
because of the 10. You're right, Sonia. And also consider if you have electric cars and for whatever reason you need to charge them, even just to get to the nearest supercharger during a power outage, it's very helpful to have 2 power walls.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to move this forward.
Can I follow up with another question?
Sure.
So I mentioned early on when I joined that we're considering the addition of some solar panels on a carport. And I'm wondering, is somebody like Tesla going to be building the carport for me? You know, one of those that's made exclusively for holding the panels, or am I going to have to find an outside vendor to do that?
You'll have to get a contractor.
Yeah.
Contractor? Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the electrical companies that I had worked with before down in Sunnyvale, they're actually out of Grass Valley, I think now. They actually came up with their own system. They were working on solar panels for me, but they have a carport. So you just check on the web, you're going to find somebody who offers a carport with solar panels.
Yeah. Sounds like Tesla might be the good vendor these days, that they can get you the power walls when you want them. You don't have to wait a year or stuff like that. Maybe that's the people I want to go with. I'm just, from what your discussion was, you know, just now.
Yeah, no, they seem to be able to, you know, deliver today or as soon as you need them.
Right. That's good to know. Thank you. I also, just to mention that I this morning earlier, I went to my Sonoma Clean Power email, and it had a battery storage basics video.
That's the class I'm talking about.
Yeah, that was very good. And then they have another one coming up this coming week with more detailed battery information. So.
And PG&E that actually comes out of the PG&E class. The PG&E class is actually an 8-hour session. I think the Caldwell just is an hour or 2 hours. But PG&E will cover the whole topic area. He's actually just talking about comparison of the batteries.
Well, one of the things that the woman spoke about was that the Sonoma County has a energy and sustainability department, and they can do free virtual consultations for solar and battery. So that's another thing that was interesting to learn.
All right. Yeah.
David Harris here. I want to get the topic of electric motor technology out. Maybe we need to think about a program on that. But is anybody following what was Software Motor Company that has rebranded itself as Turntide Motors? And permanent magnets with no rare earths, and they think their motors will drop the world energy demand by 25%, or electric demand by 25%.
Yeah, I was hoping somebody would do a presentation on motors. It would take some investigation. Caleb and I have talked about this because of a couple of motors we were interested in. And I don't know if he's willing to do that eventually, or somebody else do the study work on, because there's a whole bunch of different motor configurations now starting to show up.
And this would be investment opportunities also.
Yeah.
You gotta go.
Gotta go? Okay, I'm gonna go on to the last section here. There's an exercise here from the New York Times that I thought would be fun. They asked some questions. So, going vegetarian, do you cut down on the pack? So if you decide you can reduce your GHGs and becoming vegetarian, but your friend decides instead to cut down only by purchasing bulk foods, nothing with packaging, how many years would it take your friend to match a year of your vegetarianism? Okay, now let's see if I can do this right. Just a second, I gotta find
Sounds like something you'd see on a game show.
Okay, so yeah, that is something you see on a game show. So here I'm going to launch this poll.
Oh, good.
Let's see if it works. Did you guys get a poll?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Now you get the answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody answered?
I answered.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're talking about.
All set? Let's see what the results are. Well, here's the results. You guys have 1 year, 6.2 years. It looks like pretty good numbers, 30 years, and we got somebody saying never. Now, along with that, now I got to figure out how to do the rest in a second. Oh, did I share the results yet? Oh, I didn't.
No.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My guess was 1, so I was way off. It's actually between 10.5 and 11 years. And it was pretty
None of us got it.
Yeah, pretty close. And I didn't know how to do the calculation on this because I didn't know much about plastic. And the meat I knew, so that was the first part. Now, what are the electricity hogs in your home? What burns energy in your house? Your house generates a lot of greenhouse gases, but not all of them are the same. How many hours would you have to leave your LED lamp switched on and produce the same GHGs as for a single load in your dryer?
Oh.
Well,
Answer
let me
for
pull up my
electric
sense
dryer.
results.
Okay.
Okay.
Just one LED, just one?
One LED, okay? Just a second. Here we
Even LEDs have different outputs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they do. So hang on a second. I got to figure out.
Oh, but it's an order of magnitude
It's gonna be
difference.
rough. It's gonna be a rough guess.
Now I'm supposed to get. Oh, I want to do the next poll.
Yes.
Stop sharing.
Yeah. And that's an electric dryer on solar, right? Not a gas dryer.
Ah, there we go. That's how I do it. There we go. Poll number 2.
Electric dryer.
With
All right.
dirty gas running.
How many hours could you leave an LED lamp switched on and produce the same GHG as a single load in a clothes dryer?
Let's see.
gonna go with 300.
Yeah, the real question is, are they considering heat pump clothes dryers? Those are now on the market. I've seen.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Definitely not.
I'm gonna guess no.
No fair.
Okay. So it looks like we have a whole bunch of people saying 950 hours, huh? Now my guess was 400 hours.
Yeah, it's 11 amps versus.
And the answer is between 272 and 354 hours.
Yay.
Oh, wow.
Right? I thought, yeah.
Probably hooked to a grid that's not quite as clean as California.
This actually, and the number that was here, they were talking about, this is like the typical grid. It was not just California, because it was New York Times for sure.
Yeah, 9 amps too.
Okay, now on.
So does anybody else use a Sense monitor in their home?
No.
So I get, I don't know if you can see that, but so it basically is this clamp. It's a couple CT clamps you put on your electrical, in your electrical box, and it will actually sense what devices you have and what you're running in your house and give you readouts of when things are on and off. And so it's really pretty clever. As the network grows, as more people put them in, more devices are found automatically. But it goes right down to, like, you know, the instance of getting a drink out of my fridge, you know, having that water filter run, you know, it clicks on for 2 seconds and it picks that up. So, you know, it tracks everything. It's really, really kind of entertaining.
Is this for wireless appliances?
It's basically a energy monitor for any device within your house, but giving you the visibility of what devices are consuming and what are not.
What's it called?
It's called Sense.
Thought about getting that for a long time, so it really works well now, because a few years ago it wasn't that efficient.
Yeah, so it's definitely done pretty well. There's a few things it doesn't do well. Some smaller items, or some like really obscure items it doesn't find well. Ironically, it doesn't find my 110 car charger very well, but it picks up other things like dryers, washers, stovetops, microwaves, hair dryers, you know, all these little appliances, even smaller things than that, it'll pick up. It's not going to pick up like a phone charger, like a really small phone charger, but you'll see that in your other usage category.
Caleb, does that have a feature where you can assign a name to a signal?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you can go in and put in all the product details around it so that you can help build their profile.
How much does this thing cost?
I want to say it was $300.
Yeah.
And you can buy you can buy an option that if you have solar, you can actually have a separate set of CTs on the solar side, so you can see your production and your consumption in that same monitor.
Yeah, overlaid on top too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You may want to do a little write-up on this for us, Caleb, and do a slide on it next time, okay?
Well, that might be a presentation.
Yeah, it might be. Okay, comply with me. Say you're traveling to New York City, from New York City to London, and you actively want to offset by giving up quarter-pounder hamburgers. How many hamburgers do you need to skip in order to offset this one-way flight? By the way, Bernie's probably going to get this right. I got it wrong because I made assumptions as to what the fuel consumption was in a jet versus my Cessna 170. And it turns out per seat that the jet uses roughly the same amount of fuel as I do with one person in my plane. And so I was kind of interesting given how fast the jet goes then compared to the plane. So here's your poll.
We had that gal come and give a talk on veganism a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And she said, the literature she handed out said that one hamburger is worth 180 miles of car travel.
Well, here's your chance. How many hamburgers do you have to give up in order to go to London?
Ooh.
I presume that you're taking the cost of the fuel for the entire airplane and dividing it by the number of passengers.
It's per passenger. It's per passenger.
Yeah, per passenger, right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, because my hamburgers for me. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I only eat Impossible Burger now.
All right, you all got them in there?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. We've got a whole bunch of different answers here. My answer was 4,000 because originally I assumed that the jet had to be burning a shitload more fuel than I do. But in reality, you only have to give up between 146 and 410 burgers.
Okay.
That's roughly 15 months worth of burger consumption. That would be about
You eat a lot of burgers, right?
Yeah.
I think I eat 3 burgers a year.
and a lot of it was interesting. I mean, the average that people guessed before was 100.
I'm thinking if you're throwing steaks and pork chops and bologna sandwiches, that going vegetarian saves an awful lot.
Yeah. All right, so I drive a hybrid. Isn't that enough? You've got a mid-sized car and decide it's time to make the big change, go to a hybrid. You average 100 miles a week in your current compact. How many miles can you drive while producing the same GHGs as you did in your compact? And I am figuring out how to do this now. Nobody knows? I don't see anybody answering. Oh, there we go.
I'm going to go for, yeah, all right, here.
I'm thinking.
Everybody answered? I've only got 7 answers so far.
Everybody else left.
Well, yeah, we still got 12 people here. Or 16 people. All right, well,
I'm having trouble processing the question.
Oh, well, here's the answer that everybody gave. Basically is this. If you have a compact and then you decided to get a Prius, for instance, how far could you drive the Prius and have the same impact as the compact did? If the compact drove 100 miles, how far could you drive the Prius? My guess was 200 miles. But the real answer is 112 to 190. That is, compacts are pretty efficient compared to the hybrids. Now, compared to an EV, that's entirely different. But I think it fits pretty much with EPA ratings when you see maybe the rating on the Prius is 48 miles versus a compact is to be at 34 miles.
Related to that, it's kind of hard to talk someone out of their Prius when you talk about the amount of money they're spending on gas versus electricity. You kind of have to just take it from another direction, I think, because it's like, yeah, you've already kind of squeezed down the amount of gas a little bit. Yeah, so.
And then finally,
my brother just bought a Toyota. What's that little mini compact?
Yaris.
No, the little SUV they have. Oh crap!
Not the RAV4, but the smaller
one below the Highlander.
CR
RAV4.
RAV4.
Yeah.
He got the hybrid RAV4. He lives in Sacramento. He went to Tahoe and back, and he averaged 65 miles per gallon in the RAV4.
Oh, because he went downhill.
Yeah, well, he went uphill first and then downhill. So, yeah.
Well, now I have an error in my deck here that so I'm going to tell you the next one. Okay, the next one is this. In fact, I'm going to launch the poll right here instead of showing the slide because the slide has the answer on it. So select the 2 countries that produce 15 tons of CO2 per person, which is roughly 3 times the next heaviest production country. So it's multiple choice. right, we all ready?
Two countries, right. Oh,
Yeah,
I did
2
three.
countries. Okay.
I did 3.
Oh, it allowed you to do 3? I didn't know it allowed that.
Yeah, I did.
I haven't figured that part out yet then. So it's the United States and Canada, which kind of surprised me. I expected that the second country would be somebody else, maybe China, maybe Russia or Great Britain, but not Canada. US, I think we all selected. But the fact that those 2 countries, each of those, has 3 times the impact of Great Britain, which is the next largest impact country, says that we should be focusing here and in Canada, North America.
Is that per person? I mean, excuse me, per
year?
Year?
This is per person.
Per person.
Per year?
Yeah. On average, 15
That sounds
tons
low, actually.
per person.
That sounds low to me, that 15-ton figure.
I think if you fly a lot, you're way above that.
Yeah.
But, there aren't as many people who fly very frequently, right? So it's just kind of like the middle class and up.
Well, if I fly the airplane for 1 hour, that'll use about 8 gallons, and it's about 17-to-1 ratio in burning, so the CO2. So 8 times 17, and a gallon weighs 6 pounds, so it's 50 times 17, so that's 850 pounds. All right, stop there. And this was just a summary that came from the New York Times article. It's pretty interesting. Most people don't know what our impact is. It's what we see in front of us is what we think is the largest impact thing. But, eating vegetarian is 8 times more impactful than changing all your lights to light bulbs, to LEDs. That surprised me. Farm is more impactful than cars in some areas, certainly in this area. So, covering all that stuff.
That is interesting.
Anyway, I put a few links. I can't remember who sent this one in on the Chinese EV auto market review. It's amazing the number of EVs that are being offered, and compelling EVs in China that we don't have available to us here in the States. There's also an interview here, which Alan liked, about the Chinese market. It was hard for me to get through that one. Here's the online review of the ID3. That was a pretty good review. And then there's an overview of battery concerns in used EVs and whether they're real concerns or not. And finally, the video from August. We don't have anybody on deck yet for next presentation. Hopefully we'll either get a presentation on 3-wheel vehicles.
Hey, Jerry?
Yeah.
That's, I have a tentative agreement from Archimoto to give a presentation, maybe by their CEO.
Okay.
And all I wanted to, they have an interesting vision and gets into a lot of these energy efficiency issues and the real need for driving around 4,000-pound electric cars. But I'm just wondering if everybody is interested in having that presentation or not. I mean, I don't want to put forth something somebody else might not be even interested in.
I have a reservation for one.
You have a reservation for one, not a reservation for the presentation. You have a reservation for one.
For the Archimoto, yeah.
I think we should do it, David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll get back to them. And sounds like they want to do it. They even were talking about today, but they finally sent me a message yesterday. So
okay. And in November, tentatively, we have a presentation on high efficiency tires that are coming out. So Alan is looking at getting a speaker from the UK to do that. He's going to talk to them in the next day or so. And then we should start putting some more presentations together. But so far, we've had the same people giving presentations. We'd like to see if we get some more folks to come up with an idea. It does take some research to do some of these, but they're fun. You learn a lot in doing it. Anything else before we shut down?
No.
Nope.
All right. How do we do on time?
Over by 20.
We're over by 20. Okay, we had no presentation. Okay, we can bullshit better than anybody. All right, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Stay safe. See ya. Bye.
Good.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.